Welcome back, Arizona. My name is Steve Rundle. As always, in studio here with Sean and Andrew. And we were talking before the break a little bit about just different options, just, you know, what fits into each one's plan, if you will. I mean, Sean, you deal with budgets all the time and restructuring people and their money and what they should be doing with their money in order to achieve goals. And it's not just bad credit, it's also good credit. I mean, I think one of the biggest things, too, you mentioned to me, is it's not just for people with bad credit. It's maybe someone looking to purchase or do something on a business line of credit, and they need to restructure or tweak a little bit in order to obtain some sort of business credit that they might be going for. And how important is that, too, as we talked earlier, where people are now trying to change their lives. Maybe they lost their job or moving from another state and they're wanting to start a small business. Maybe they've always wanted to be a florist or a baker or, you know, something like that.
Well, history dictates that the Depression times
Right.
is when the most entrepreneurs have made their largest change of
Absolutely.
income.
Yep. There's a big money shift right now that's occurring. And you can see it. We see it a little bit in real estate, how many companies are, I mean, you know, guys getting together, you know, 10 guys and all throwing money in the pool and going, look, I want everything in this geographical location and, you know, for X amount of dollars. So go out there and purchase. Great. You can see that they're building up funds. They're buying, you know, 5, 10, 50
trust,
homes.
the REITs,
right. I see guys buying big packages of notes, all the, you know, hundreds and, you know, thousands of notes all in bulk, you know, for, you know, $1 million to $100 million. Constantly. I mean, it's ongoing, it's occurring, and there is a big shift happening right now.
Absolutely.
So you were mentioning before the break about one of the biggest seller financing options here in the Valley. They're located here.
Yeah, their I guess headquarters for the seller financing is a company called Note World.
Okay.
And they're located right in downtown Phoenix.
Right.
And they basically, you work up a deal. We'll say you and I wanted to work up a deal, and you're going to carry the note on that. So you set up the terms within Note World. Note World then executes all the information to me.
Right.
And then I pay to Note World, which sets up a trust account there, which is your monies, and then it'll disperse those monies to you on a regular basis, or however you decide. You can let it sit there and then clean it out, or you can have it dispersed to you every month, or whatever you want to do. But it doesn't tie up your bank account or your banking institution.
Right.
And then you also have more tools available to collect the funds. You now become a bank, so to speak, that is actually going through and has all of the benefits of ACH withdrawals.
Sure.
Collection, automatically collecting that information.
And that's so interesting to me because, you know, the topic that we were talking about before the break is, you know, how many different options there are available. And each one of us just kind of spewed out, you know, what we think is the best. And really, it's a client that you're sitting down with, what's the best for them? And maybe I take a little bit from here and a little bit from there and put it together. But I've seen so many creative, different options out there in the marketplace, from seller financing, lease options, lease to owns, lease to purchase, trades. You know, the MLS, the Arizona MLS, just added an option for financing in the MLS for trades. So now you can list your property for trade.
Give my Ferrari for a house. I do not have a Ferrari.
Wow, I was looking to say you got $1 million home.
Right.
Now you're driving in a Ferrari.
Right.
And so you are the leader of this group.
I do not have a Ferrari.
Well, but I mean, you know, it just goes to show that, you know, we've already have lease options and lease purchases and seller financing in there. Now they're adding additional options for
Now, the lease option and seller
trading.
financing used to be really popular.
It did.
And now a lot of people have gotten away from it because they just don't understand it. Or typically, I think it's because all the realtors that were doing it are no longer in the game.
Well, a large part of the problem that we had, and I've done a lot of lease options in my lifetime, is the prices in Arizona went up too high and too quick. And so the guys who were selling their property on a lease option, well, they were selling too low by the time that option came due because it wasn't market value, or rents were higher because they're usually charging a premium. So rents were higher than what you could actually own, because back in, you know, before the boom actually hit, rates were cheap, down payments were cheap. You could do first and seconds.
Well, now the problem would be is that the purchase price for the lease option might be too high, because in a year or two, when the homeowner, the home buyer leasing the property is ready to qualify, will that property appraise? And that's been a problem over the last couple of years, because we've had still some declining property values, but right now we're seeing some increases in value. So it depends on the neighborhood, probably.
It does depend on the neighborhood, and of course it depends on the terms and what a buyer and a seller is going to work out. But it's definitely a viable option. As you know, we all, the American dream is to own the home, okay? And maybe that's not everyone's American dream, but that sense of security, that sense of I can put my kid in a school and keep them there for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, you know, as they go through. Everyone wants it. Everyone wants to be able to customize their house.
Or even is just a custom place for me to stay.
That's it.
My house is the exact way where I want to have my retreat, when I'm not at work, when I'm not dealing with the world. This is my perfect spot.
Right.
This is my serenity.
Don't have to deal with the landlord. And not that most landlords are bad, but, you know, the fact is that if you want to paint, you got to go talk to your landlord. Or you want to redo the landscaping, got to go talk to the landlord. Or, you know, the landlord just isn't doing what he's supposed to be doing. You know, AC goes out in the middle of summer and it doesn't get fixed for a week. I mean, you know, that gets frustrating. And
that just happened to my mother-in-law.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Her AC just went out.
And it hasn't been fixed for almost a week.
Oh. It's not the right time of the year for that to be happening.
And it's my mother-in-law. I'm so sorry about that. I really am.
But it's that sort of, I guess, flexibility that we all seek in home ownership, where we have the ability to do what we want to do, and you know, within the law, of course.
Yep.
But
Steve, how much down payment can people put down? How little can they put down on a seller financed?
It just
home?
depends.
Is it 10%?
It just depends.
What have you seen?
That's the thing. Is it can run the gambit. You know, it could
What's
go
the
anywhere
lowest
from 5% to 30%.
Okay, so you've seen as low as 5% down. So people,
I've seen certain and different things across the board.
Okay.
The biggest thing is the terms. I mean, maybe if you're putting 5%, you might be paying more on the payment, or maybe if you're putting 30%, you're paying a little bit less.
Of
I mean,
course.
every seller is going to have a different number that they're going to try to target. And is there negotiations within it? Absolutely.
But people could lose their home through foreclosure or short sale, pull that Band-Aid off, rip that Band-Aid off, get the pain over with. Now they're not debt. They have no more debt anymore. Go in immediately to home ownership. You're telling us immediately,
Absolutely,
with a seller finance deal, just with a little bit of money saved, and get into something where they own the home, and then down the road they can refinance
think about this.
and take it out of the seller's.
Let's reevaluate.
That's really awesome.
Because
There are
if
options
you're
out
losing your home, the government's typically going to pay you what did we say a couple weeks ago? $3,000.
$3,000 through a half a short sale.
So you get a $3,000 from the government.
Right.
You go into a seller finance deal, which the only person that's really taking the risk on it is the person selling the house.
Right.
Because he's carrying the note, basically. And you move right into another home, and your credit never even was affected.
Right. Well, and think about this, guys. I mean, here's the thing, too. I mean, look, investors aren't dumb. Sellers aren't necessarily dumb. Not all of them. Some of them. But at the end of the day, you know, there are things that we can do that are going to protect, you know, me as an owner, an investor of a house to do a lease option. Look, if I'm looking at a credit report and I go, look, the only thing he's had wrong or he or she's had wrong on their credit is their house payment. But cars have always been paid. Credit cards have always been paid. Utilities have always been paid. There's a reason why. There's an explanation. There could potentially be a true reason, or they just said financially, look, it doesn't make any financial sense for me to keep this house. I'm going to get rid of it.
You know what they would say if that homeowner were a CEO of a corporation and they let go of one of the worst investments in the portfolio? They would say, give him a raise.
Right,
He's a genius.
exactly.
And that's exactly what Brent
the
White
bank
wrote.
will tell you you're irresponsible. You know, you look at it and you go, gosh, this guy's fiscally prudent.
But a business manager would say, and stockholders would say, thank you for dumping that bad asset.
Absolutely.
So people are starting to realize that if they have a bad asset, as in a home, talk about it. Look at your options, because if you get rid of it, it could be one of the best things you could do for your
most
financial
people
health.
who do that understand the process and understand exactly what they're doing. In that they'll probably be able to show you, look, here's exactly when I stopped making my payment, and here's the reason why. And that's why I did it. You can see all throughout.
And your adult report card, it tells you that.
Absolutely. Yeah, you've always talked about that and preach about that.
It is the adult report card. That's your credit report.
Well, and that's why it's important to do the due diligence. You know, it doesn't make sense to do a lease option on someone who's missed credit cards, missed utilities, can't make the payment. Probably not. But that's not a good thing to do, even if you're just a landlord renting a property either. You know, you got to look at that track history. So whether you're offering seller financing or an option to purchase or just leasing out a property, you have to look at all of those aspects on everybody who comes in your door for whatever reason it is, however you're trying to get that person back into a house and say, look, is this person viable? Andrew, last show you mentioned you had one bad tenant. One bad tenant
in
out
20
of
years.
out of 18. That's pretty good. I mean, I would say if you have one bad tenant in 18 years or 20 years on 18 properties, you're doing pretty good. I mean, tenants are going to be tenants, but you know the fact is that you can probably really squash down that potential risk with proper due diligence, and that's what we do here.
Yeah, you check credit, check job history, obviously criminal history.
Absolutely.
And you meet with them. If you like the people and you feel you're comfortable with them.
Because not all people are bad.
No.
Some people just need a second chance, and
Right.
they need to drop that bad asset.
You know,
Well, we can back it up with jobs. We can back it up with past credit history. We can back it up with, okay, I understand what happened.
who
Let's
hasn't
not
been
make sure
through
it doesn't.
who hasn't been through a lesson that they've learned from? You
Oh,
know,
I think
there's
everybody
nobody on
has.
the planet.
Absolutely.
There was only one on the planet that didn't have to do that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean, so all kinds of options out there and available. And if you want to give us a call, we can definitely talk about your situation and apply some of these options to you. 602-999-1912. We don't have much time left. Any final words, guys?
If you need to hear this show again, check it out on the website, azrealestateradio.com.
Andrew, anything this
No,
week?
just glad to be helping people. Any calls, any questions anybody has, please just don't be afraid. Call in. We'll give you our best advice. And if the best advice is stay where you're at, we'll let you know.
And if you're looking to sell your property and want to discuss more of these options, give me a call, 602-999-1912. And we certainly can discuss lease options, lease purchase. We got a lot of experience in that. My guys certainly do. And seller financing. We got some interesting things on seller financing that we could talk about. And then we'll catch you guys tomorrow.
See you then.
Adios.
Adios.
See you guys.